All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going deep with William Blake.
William Blake.
His Proverbs of Hell,
Yeah.
those Proverbs. So we're talking about the guy, who wrote The Tiger.
Right.
Talk about fire. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
But Blake wasn't just, playing with matches here. This is like next level.
Yeah.
He's wrestling with these huge questions
Yeah.
about like how we see the world,
Yeah.
good and evil, heaven and hell, the whole
thing.
the whole shebang.
Yeah. I think what makes Blake so fascinating is he was so willing to kind of turn everything on its head.
Hmm.
He was a true visionary,
Mhm.
an artist,
Yeah.
but also like a bit of a rebel.
Hmm.
Challenging everything that was considered safe and acceptable in his time.
Oh, yeah. He was like, hold my beer
Right.
while I light this whole system on fire with my poetry.
Yes.
Which brings us to these Proverbs of Hell, right? And they're part of this larger work, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Just that title alone,
Right.
You're in for a wild ride.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he's like inviting you to question everything you thought you knew.
100%. And to really get into the thick of it, like, we got to start at the beginning,
Okay.
which is the poem, The Argument.
Yes.
Have you ever read The Argument?
Oh, yeah.
Because talk about dramatic imagery.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
It's like stumbling onto this cosmic battleground.
Totally. You have these like larger than life figures.
Yep.
You've got like Rintrah, who's representing this pure, raw energy.
Yeah.
Almost like a force of nature. And then you have the just man, who Blake actually suggests is walking a more dangerous path.
Okay, now hold on. Dangerous how? I thought the just man, like, those were the good guys.
Well, and that's exactly the kind of assumption that Blake wants us to question.
Okay.
He sets up this idea of necessary contraries,
Okay.
basically saying that, without opposition, without this tension between things like reason and energy, love and hate, we can't move forward. It's almost like trying to walk with only one leg. You need both sides to actually make progress.
So it's not about picking a side,
Right.
good, bad, right, wrong. It's like understanding how both are necessary.
Exactly. Like you need both of them for the whole picture.
To hold the tension.
Yes, to have the whole picture.
Okay.
And this concept, this dance between opposites, I think, is really key to understanding the Proverbs of Hell.
Yeah.
Because they're all about kind of pushing us beyond these really simple categories
Yeah,
that we create in our minds.
totally. And I think that leads us to that very famous, infamous maybe line, the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom.
Yes.
Now, on the surface,
Yeah.
that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Right.
Like, hold my tequila.
Right.
I'm going on a quest for knowledge.
Exactly. It's almost like he's daring us to misunderstand him at first. But I think there's a deeper meaning there, right?
Okay, so no actual tequila shots for enlightenment.
Right.
Walk me through this. Like, what kind of excess are we talking about here?
Right. I think what he's talking about is, going beyond just like the limits of conventional thought, of what we're told is right and wrong,
Right.
true or false.
Right.
It's about like daring to question,
Yeah.
to experiment, to push the boundaries of your own kind of understanding.
So not tequila shots, but maybe thought experiments.
Right.
Like really sitting with those like uncomfortable questions that we usually avoid.
Yeah, exactly. Think about those times when you've learned something truly profound, something that like shifted your whole perspective.
Yeah.
Didn't it usually come from like having to step outside of your comfort zone a little bit,
Totally.
questioning what you thought you knew?
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see what you mean. So it's like Blake is saying the real journey to like wisdom starts at the edge of our comfort zone.
And sometimes it requires like going even further, like embracing those parts of ourselves that society might even deem excessive.
Okay.
Our passions, our desires, even our anger.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, another one of like the zingers from this, if the fool would persist in his folly, he would become wise.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay, break this one down for me. Like, is he really saying we should just keep making the same mistakes over and over?
No, not exactly. I think it's more about like challenging our definition of folly in the first place.
Okay.
What we often label as like foolish behavior might actually hold like a hidden wisdom
Okay.
if we're willing to kind of look a little deeper.
So instead of just saying, well, that was foolish, it's like, okay, but what can I learn from this?
Right.
Like, what's the wisdom here?
Yeah, exactly. Like what's the hidden wisdom in this? And maybe, just maybe, like those things that we perceive as our greatest flaws are actually like these seeds of our greatest strength.
Oh, wow.
It's about transforming those supposed weaknesses into sources of wisdom and growth.
Okay, that's a perspective shift.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this next one, This one's a doozy.
Okay.
The pride of the peacock is the glory of God. The lust of the goat is the bounty of God.
Yeah,
Wow. Blake went there.
he did.
I feel like we gotta, like, unpack this one carefully.
Yeah, this is classic Blake, right? So
Yeah.
provocative.
Yeah.
It challenges everything we think we know about good and evil.
Mm.
He's directly taking on, like, the traditional religious view
Yeah.
that sees these certain natural impulses, pride, desire, as inherently sinful.
Right. These, like, deadly sins that
Yeah.
we hear about.
Exactly. But Blake is saying, hold on a second.
Like, not so fast.
Not so fast, yeah.
Yeah.
He's flipping the script.
Yeah.
He's saying that these very impulses, these things that make us feel alive, are actually expressions of divine energy.
Okay.
It's about embracing, the fullness of who we are without shame or judgment.
So it's not about, like, denying our nature. It's about understanding our nature
Yes.
in all of its messy glory.
Right.
Is part of something bigger.
Yes. And remember that idea of, like, the necessary contrary?
Yeah.
Like, he actually saw this repression of our natural instincts as a kind of spiritual imbalance.
Yeah.
It's like trying to extinguish, like, half the fire within us and then expecting to be whole.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of deadly sins, maybe it's fiery opportunities for growth.
Yes.
I love that. All right. Next up, the tigers of wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this one is about, like, following your gut over blind obedience.
Right.
Like, trusting your instincts.
Yeah, you're totally picking up what Blake is putting down, I think.
Okay.
He's saying that real wisdom often comes from lived experience. It comes from embracing our full emotional range.
Okay.
Even the messy, uncomfortable parts, like anger.
Right.
Those horses of instruction, to me, always represent this kind of, like, blind acceptance of dogma,
Right.
kind of intellectual laziness,
So, not that we should be blindly angry all the time, but, like, understanding that our anger,
Right.
when channeled correctly, can
Yeah.
actually be, like, a powerful source of energy
Yes.
and insight.
It's about trusting your instincts.
Yeah.
Trusting your inner compass, even when it challenges the status quo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that saying, don't just go through it, grow through it.
Right.
And maybe those tigers of wrath can actually help us break free from those cages of conformity.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Now, this next proverb really struck me. Truth can never be told so as to be understood and not be believed. With all the information overload these days, this one feels especially relevant.
Oh, talk about truth bombs, right. It's like
truth-
everyone's got their own version of the truth. Good luck trying to find the right one in that mess.
Right, it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
It is, and I think that's because Blake understood that truth isn't this, like, fixed objective thing that we can just, like, hand over to somebody.
Right.
It's an experience. It's a journey. What resonates as true for one person might be meaningless to another.
Okay, so how do we even navigate that? Is he saying there's no point even trying to find truth?
Not at all. It's about approaching truth with, like, humility and curiosity. It's about questioning everything.
Okay.
Our own assumptions, the information we encounter, even the very nature of truth itself.
So instead of clinging to our version of truth, it's like, okay, what if I'm wrong? What am I missing here?
Yes, exactly. It's about embracing that space of not knowing, of being open to new perspectives.
Which honestly can feel terrifying sometimes.
It can.
It is so much easier to just, like, stay in our own little echo chambers.
It might be easier, but is it really more interesting? Think about Blake. If he had played it safe, we wouldn't even be talking about his work today.
That is true. That is true. All right, let's talk a little bit about Blake and his relationship with religion, because I know he had some pretty strong opinions.
He did. He did. He was deeply spiritual.
Yes.
But he was also incredibly critical of what he saw as the kind of limiting and controlling aspects of organized religion as he knew it. He felt that true spirituality came from, like, cultivating your own inner vision, what he called the poetic genius.
Okay, poetic genius. I like the sound of this. So what is he saying? Should we all quit our day jobs and become poets?
Unnecessarily. Although that might be fun. But I think of it more as that ability we all have to, like, see the world with fresh eyes,
Okay.
to find wonder and meaning in the everyday. It's about cultivating our imagination, our creativity, that ability to connect with something larger than ourselves.
So tapping into our inner artist, even if we don't consider ourselves artists.
Exactly. It's that spark of creativity and inspiration that connects us to the divine energy that Blake believed was kind of woven through all of creation.
So where do these proverbs of hell fit into all of this? Are they like little guideposts for cultivating our own poetic genius?
Absolutely. They're meant to shake us out of complacency, to challenge those deeply ingrained beliefs and assumptions that prevent us from seeing the world and ourselves with those fresh eyes.
Yeah, they're like little mental grenades to like explode all those pre-packaged answers we've been carrying around. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive on Blake, what do you think is the most important thing he would want us to take away from his work?
More than anything, I think Blake would want us to live a life of radical questioning, to never stop exploring and experimenting and challenging the boundaries of our own understanding.
It's about embracing those tigers of wrath
Yeah,
within ourselves, right? Those uncomfortable truths that might lead us to something truly amazing.
exactly. Don't be afraid to, challenge the status quo, trust your own intuition, and embrace the messy, paradoxical beauty of this human experience.
Yes, and to borrow a phrase from Blake himself, let's all go out there and cleanse the doors of perception. Thanks for joining us for this fiery exploration of William Blake's Proverbs of Hell. Until next time, keep those minds open and those questions coming.